Hey there, extreme hardware enthusiasts. I'm Ryan. Today is a HAF kind of day. Cooler Master was kind enough to send over their flagship of a case, the HAF 700 EVO. So many thanks to them. Kicking things off in normal EH fashion, how many of you are still running a HAF series case from Cooler Master? I suspect not that many, since Cooler Master has taken many different case directions over the years. The HAF name originally launched in 2008 with the HAF 922, with two of the iconic 200mm fans that the HAF series are known for. Now, the design didn't change a lot until 2017 when the Mastercase H500P was released. The H500P didn't have the HAF name, but it did, however, have two of those 200mm fans that pushed a ton of airflow to components. However, the H500P was plagued by its choked off front panel, resulting in a revised H500M with a mesh front panel for much better airflow. Cooler Master subsequently launched a lower end version, the H500, which also netted a lower price point, while giving off that same high airflow vibe, which ultimately leads us up to the HAF 700 EVO. Priced in at $499 USD, this case is going to put the hurt on your wallet. So, shall we see what the HAF 700 EVO is all about? Okay, first off, this guy's huge. I gotta get some confefe in me. Anyways, Cooler Master really has outdone themselves this time. The HAF name is just that, high airflow, and the HAF 700 EVO doesn't seem to disappoint in that department. Cooler Master has colored this bad boy mostly a gunmetal gray with some bits of black in here and there. The front panel, which has a ARGB mesh panel with two of Cooler Master's signature 200mm cycle flow fans, getting cool air to your components should be much of an issue. In the front is a metric butt ton of tempered glass accent panels that all light up with that ARGB goodness, which, mind you, are all edge lit. Then right dab in the center of all that tempered glass is the Iris LCD display, which can display various amounts of data to the end user, whether it be CPU or GPU temps, fan speeds, CPU or GPU clock speeds, a clock, or just about any image on its Iris LCD screen. Flanking those tempered glass vertical panels are the front I/O ports, the left having reset and power buttons, a 4-pole headphone jack, as well as a dedicated microphone jack. On the right side is where you'll find all your USB connectivity. 4 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A ports, USB 3.0 Type C port make for a very full-featured I/O front panel. Normally I would go to the business side of the case and pull off the tempered glass side panel, but Cooler Master designed the HAF 700 EVO not to be able to do that. You have to remove the top panel first before removing any of the side panels. The top panel kind of acts like a functional locking system to keep the side panels where they need to be. Taking off the top panel also reveals 6 fan locations. Yes, I said 6. If you haven't figured it out by now, this case is very water cooling centric. The top can accommodate two 360mm radiators simultaneously or a single 420mm radiator. Alternatively, you could mount two 200mm fans, 340mm fans, or 6 120mm fans. Myself, I like bigger fans lately, and I would tend to gravitate more towards the 140 and 200mm variants. The top section also comes free by unscrewing 2 screws, allowing for easier fan and radiator installation. Now, opening up and taking off the massive tempered glass side panel, which does have a slight tint, reveals the massive cavern that the HAF 700 EVO actually is. Inside are a plethora of mounting options, support for just about every size motherboard out there, even those huge EATX monsters like Asus's Dominus and EVGA's SR3 Dark. Continuing on with more water cooling support, the HAF 700 EVO supports an additional 360mm or 420mm on the floor and a 480mm radiator in the side location. Another 420mm radiator is supported in the front, 240mm radiator is supported in the rear as well. What is really interesting is Cooler Master has included 2 nifty brackets that you can mount your fans and radiator to externally, then transfer them to the case and secure it with a single toolless lever. Clever girl. Those same brackets are rotatable too. So if you wanted to show off RGB fans or something, you definitely could. So in total, one can mount 3 420mm radiators at the same time, or 5 360mm radiators for ultimate cooling. Needless to say, putting a dual loop config in this bad boy shouldn't be much of an issue. Moving to the back side, the back panel just pops right off, showing each of the two cutouts with a mesh dust filter, one for the side intake and one for the PSU. Taking off a panel shows the rear chamber of the HAF 700 EVO. Here you can mount your PSU with relative ease since the entire chamber is sectioned off with different panels covering most of the backside. So with these gray tabs exposing what's underneath, the largest panel reveals access to the PSU and HDD bays. The HDD bay holds 4 drive, whether it be 3.5 or 2.5 inches, pick your flavor. If you don't want to use the HDD bay, you can remove it via the gray tab and swing the whole thing out. The PSU bay, which can accommodate PSUs up to 200 millimeters in total length. Now, exposed a bit more are the two controllers that come into better view. The smaller of the two is in the center, which handles ARGB for the front tempered glass panels with an open ARGB slot to occupy later. Right above the motherboard cutout is the second larger fan ARGB controller, which controls up to 7 PWM fans with 5 ARGB connections, 2 of those being populated by the 2 rear 120mm fans that Cooler Master has included. Moving to the left has 2 generous cable retention clips that keep the spaghetti monster at bay. Lastly, on the fan wall are 3 more toolless mounts, which can be used to mount more storage drives or used on the other side for water cooling reservoir mounts. So how about I stop yakking and build an actual system in here? Well, I've made the decision to move my AMD Ryzen Threadripper 3970X system into the HAF 700 EVO alongside Zotac RTX 3090 Ti AMP Extreme Hollow graphics card that I just reviewed here. Anyways, my current system resides in a Fractal Design Define 7, which is great, but a little cramped if you want to use a lot of water cooling gear, which is exactly what I'm going to do here. Currently, I'm running a single 360mm SwiftTech radiator with 320mm EKWB fans in the top of the Define 7. Going into this build, or at least for a temporary water cooling loop, I'll be using all the same parts, just plus another SwiftTech radiator. I mean, there's space to do so, right? So why not use it?
A few moments later.
For temps and noise, I tested multiple times and got the very same results, to which I came to the conclusion that having 2 360mm radiators and a single CPU-only cooling loop in the HAF 700 EVO really does a great job of controlling the full heat load of my AMD Ryzen Threadripper 32-core, 64-threaded 3970X CPU. That said, having Zotac RTX 3090 Ti AMP Extreme Hollow in this setup also told me that having good airflow to the gargantuan GPUs is critical for them to perform at their best. Idle temps were nothing short of awesome, running at 27C on the Threadripper package, with the Zotac RTX 3090 Ti AMP Extreme Hollow at 37C. Temps were insanely marginal between 50% and 100% fan speeds. Running the 2x 200mm single flow fans at 100% is really not necessary. 50% really has the same effect cooling wise as 100% does, with just about 3 dB lowered fan noise. So I would just run those big 200mm fellas at 50% for the rest of their life. Build quality and design-wise, the Cooler Master HAF 700 EVO really doesn't have a lot of things wrong with it. To the contrary, Cooler Master has gotten a lot of things right on this flagship case. Having the ability to have such freedom, a few things that do come to mind, mainly with the included master accessory, the Universal Vertical Graphics Card Holder Kit version 2, which does include a PCIe 4.0 riser cable. That riser cable, which I know is a shade of purple, is Cooler Master's signature color, has one section that's purple. Knowing that most likely the graphics card would cover up most of that riser cable, purple however does not go with every color motif. The vertical GPU bracket itself is a bit flimsy, unlike the rest of the HAF 700 EVO. The vertical bracket does have the ability to slide closer to the center of the case, allowing for the GPU to fill up the emptiness better. Originally, I wanted to mount the Zotac RTX 3090 Ti AMP Extreme Hollow vertically, but unfortunately it sagged on the end because of the heatsink's sheer weight. I'm sure if I was water cooling the GPU, the included vertical GPU bracket would have been just fine. Another potential issue I saw was slight scuffing on the top of the rear side panel as well as the top front panel. This scuffing could have very well been due to shipping, but being as I could have gotten a pre-production model, this could have been rectified prior to mass production. Overall, I really didn't have any WTF moments while building in the Cooler Master HAF 700 EVO. The build went as smooth as any custom water-cooled PC would go. Having 2x 360mm radiators, a CPU block, and a massive 300mm pump res combo, things filled up nicely. I chose to do hardline PETG tubing instead of going the soft tubing route, and I think the look paid off. It looks stellar. Cable management was pretty good, having tie down points in all the right places, which I utilized fully. The front vertical 10mm tempered glass panels really do make the front look really high-end, along with a sweet iris display. These elements really help modernize the HAF series, truly making the HAF 700 EVO the flagship that Cooler Master settled to do. The HAF 700 EVO came in at a whopping 68.3 pounds when I received it. Keep in mind this is shipping weight, so box and packing materials. So making light of that, pardon the pun, the HAF 700 EVO is a heavy boy, especially when loaded up with all sorts of water cooling gear. So what do I think of the Cooler Master HAF 700 EVO? Well, I quite like it. I like it a lot. At $500 USD, it's going to be quite spendy for most people. Like I usually do in my other case reviews, I would like to break down the cost of the included accessories that Cooler Master has with the HAF 700 EVO. Those three 120mm ARGB sickle flow fans go for around $50 USD. The two included 200mm sickle flow fans in the front, which the ARGB versions are about $30 each, which are a point of contention with me. Why would Cooler Master make a non-ARGB version of the sickle flow 200mm fans? Well, I will tell you why. These front panels tempered glass sections that are ARGB edge lit and having ARGB 200mm fans behind those tempered glass sections would take away from the look. Those sections have got to cost a pretty penny there, not to mention the iris screen that Cooler Master has included for more user information, which most likely would cost upwards of $100 USD or so. Then you have the master accessory, the Universal Vertical Graphics Card Holder Kit V2, which includes that PCIe 4.0 riser cable, adding about $80 to the mix. Adding all that up is about $300, making for an interesting conversation for the remaining $200 USD left. Now, factoring out the accessories being in the $200 USD PC case category is really fierce. However, not many $200 USD cases allow you to have so many cooling options. If you're into extreme water cooling, the HAF 700 EVO starts to make a lot more sense. All right, guys, that's going to do it for my look at Cooler Master's HAF 700 EVO. If you guys haven't liked and subscribed by now, please consider doing so to help Extreme Hardware grow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.